Apple Card is the credit card created by Apple. You earn 3% daily cash back up front when you use it to buy a new iPhone 15, AirPods, or any products at Apple. And you can automatically grow your daily cash at 4.15% annual percentage yield when you open a high-yield savings account. Apply for Apple Card in the Wallet app on iPhone. Apple Card subject to credit approval. Savings is available to Apple Card owners subject to eligibility. Savings accounts by Goldman Sachs Bank USA, member FDIC. Terms apply.
Saturday. Christmas comes early.
Unbelievable! Welcome to this incredible scene.
Bills.
To the end zone!
Chargers.
It's a touchdown!
An exclusive NFL game.
This is fantastic!
Live in primetime.
Wow!
Only on Peacock.
With a Christmas gift to their fans. They're having some fun now.
Bills versus Chargers. Saturday, 7:30 Eastern. Exclusively on Peacock.
Hello and welcome to the Paddock and the Pavilion with Stephen Wallace. In each show, Stephen will interview someone connected to the world of horse racing or cricket.
Hello everyone. On today's podcast, I'm back with Holly Roeder to look back at the successful Glenn Roeder Raceday held at Newmarket on Saturday the 23rd of July. Welcome back to the show, Holly.
Hi Stephen, nice to see you again.
Well, a lot has happened since episode 140 and the Glenn Roeder Raceday. And I'm also joined today by Graham Lindsay, the Vice Chair of the Brian Tumour Charity. Hello, Graham.
Hello, Stephen. Nice to be with you.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today on this very important podcast, really, where we're also going to give promotion to the very important charity, the Brian Tumour Charity. And to start with, Holly, have you caught up with your sleep?
Only just about, I have to say. I've learned all the way through this process, and I've learned that it doesn't just stop on the day. So there is huge amount of kind of admin, I suppose, if you want to call it that, to basically sort out. We had a very large auction, as you know, a sort of 100 lots, and majority of those were ours completely and not the auction company. So we've had to sort out all of those, and obviously all the kind of finance side of it. So yeah, it hasn't really stopped. Not quite so exciting, but hey ho, it's part of it, I guess.
Yeah, but how was the actual day for you? What time did you start? What time did it? Well, it ended at midnight, but you were probably still working on it at that time.
Well, it was a race meeting during the day. So it was a pretty early start, actually. We got up, I don't know, 5:30. I was in the hairdressers by 6:00. The poor girl, very lovely girl in Newmarket, she put my hair up, came in early to do that, and straight down to the racetrack. Was there by kind of before 8. And there was a whole team of us there, of friends, really, who I just can't thank enough, helping us set up the whole room, which was incredible to do. It was fun.
And you had 360 people in the marquee. How did the day go for the people in the marquee? Yeah,
it was. I think I keep using the word. It was a real blast, and it really was. I think it was. It was a jam-packed day. Bits of it I definitely still don't remember. It kind of flew by, but honestly, I don't think there was a bit that I look back and think that didn't really go to plan, or I wouldn't have done that next time. I say next time, I don't know if there'll be a next time. But yeah, everything went to plan and everyone seemed to have a lovely time. And it was just amazing to see, the majority of the people there were people that we know, friends and family, and obviously their friends and family that, were their guests. So it was just so nice to see so many people. But 360 people in one room is a lot, and it was a hectic room. But it was full of just positivity and happiness and people glad to be there. And it was really lovely, really a lovely experience.
Well, I spoke to Simon Bailey, the chaplain for horse racing, and he told me on Friday when I spoke to him it was the best sporting event he'd ever been to.
Oh, Simon is lovely, and he's a huge part of us, particularly here in Newmarket. He's someone that us in racing go to if we need a kind ear, and he helps lots of people. And it was really lovely to have him say grace for us at the dinner table, although I think everyone had started eating by the time he managed to get up on his spot. So he made it a laugh.
And how was Brendan McArdle, Matt Hall and Chris Mann? How did they get on in the marquee?
All really great. Had their own styles which worked. And Chris was, he's perfect for the role, and very sensible and knows what needs to be done and kept it on track, to be honest. Brendan is complete live wire and Irish and going around and basically getting a few pounds out of everyone. And Matt Hall from Tattersalls, brilliant auctioneer. I mean, I personally think he's one of the best, and he's a young guy that's definitely up and coming. So I was so grateful for him to do that.
And we mentioned it on episode 140. How did Spot the Ball go?
Good. I was delighted actually with who won it, and I didn't know until later in the day. And I was going around saying, we did raffles and a champagne raffle and the Spot the Ball, and we did a golden ticket as well, all with their individual prizes, and it all got a bit lost in for me in translation. I didn't really keep tabs on who was winning what, and eventually I found out who won the Spot the Ball, and it was Matt Hall of Tattersalls. So he did us a great favour, and he raised a huge amount of money. So I was actually really delighted that he got 2 nights in the Cotswolds.
And I was at the races, and every time I kept seeing you, either you were on TV or racing TV or something.
Gosh. I know, it was pulled from pillar to post that day, but that was fine. It wasn't a hassle. Delighted that people were interested, for one, and two, we can shout about what we're doing. It was a chance for me to talk about Dad and the charity, which is what we were trying to raise all this money for.
Well, talking of the charity, we're also joined by Graham Lindsay, the Vice Chair of the Brain Tumour Charity. You were there, Graham. What was the day like for you and for the Brain Tumour Charity?
Well, we'll come to the Brain Tumour Charity in a minute. I've got to just respond to what Holly was saying, because, yes, I was so lucky to be there on the day. And I've actually come up with an acronym based upon what Holly was just saying when you asked her the question, what was it like in the room? And my acronym is PEG. The room was full of positivity, energy, and generosity. And it was just an amazing day. And it was quite funny, actually. You were asking, Holly, about Spot the Ball. There was a bit of a clue. They showed a most wonderful montage of Holly's dad, Glenn, throughout his life. And at one point, there was the same picture that we had in front of us. I don't know whether you knew this, Holly. There was the same picture in front of us. And even though I did spot it, I didn't get it right. So what does that tell you about me, Stephen?
Be no good on Question of Sport.
I'd be useless. I am old enough to remember entering Spot the Ball competitions on a very regular basis. That's how old I am. But it was wonderful, Stephen, to answer your question. And it's days like that when you see the generosity of the British public, that your heart fills with such warmth, because we were there, of course, to celebrate the life of a wonderful man. We were there because of what it was that ultimately took him from us far too early. But we had fun as well, and there were smiles, there were tears as well. So it was just an awesome day.
And Holly, no doubt you're still sort of finalising the fundraising effort, but can you give us an idea of how much money you've raised for the Brain Tumour Charity?
Yeah, so we're still counting. There was lots of elements to the day in terms of obviously our table sales, our 36 table sales, and all the raffles that we did, and all the ideas we came up with to try and get the little, those few extra pounds in, bucket collectors at a couple of racetracks and things like that. And since really kind personal donations from families because of what we did. So that's all sort of still being calculated, but roughly speaking, and nothing announced yet, in the region of £150,000.
What's your reaction to that, Graham? That's a staggering amount, isn't it?
Wow is my reaction, and thoroughly well deserved on the basis of the amount of effort that Holly, and her wider family and her friends put into it. And maybe it's one of those moments, Stephen, where I can just talk a little bit about what the difference is going to make to us and kind of why we exist. And, we're here for one simple reason at the Brain Tumour Charity, to improve the lives of those people. And it's an estimated 88,000 people that are currently living with a brain tumour, and another 12,000, regrettably, will face a brain tumour diagnosis in the next 12 months as well. And despite all the amazing efforts of people in the fundraising of the kind that we've just talked about, only at the moment about 12% of those people will survive more than 5 years. And of course, we were fortunate, and the family were fortunate, that Glenn actually survived nearly 20 years. But that's not the case for everybody. And, it isn't just about numbers. We can talk about Glenn, we can talk about Tom Parker, who died quite recently, less than 18 months after being diagnosed. But amounts of money like this make such a big difference to us. If I break it down into the smallest denominations, and by the way, we rely totally on the generosity of people fundraising and wills and trusts and estates and things like that. We get no government funding at all, despite the fact that a brain tumour is the biggest cancer killer of children and adults under 40 of any other type of cancer. But £10, just £10, buys a brainy bag, as we call it, for a child who's been diagnosed with a brain tumour, filled with child-friendly items such as a teddy bear, a colouring book, and a blanket. £250 can provide a whole day of pioneering research to try and understand the particular types of brain tumour and provide more targeted treatments. But £150,000 covers, as an example, 2 years of one of our Future Leader grants, our step-changing funding programme to fund the brightest minds in scientific and clinical research into brain tumours, because, our hope, and it has to remain our hope, that ultimately we will find a cure. In the meantime, what we're trying to do, and we've done it through a children's programme called Head Smart, and we're launching it through an adult programme now, which is to help people to recognise early the signs and the symptoms of a brain tumour. Because like any illness and disease, the earlier you catch it, the better the likely diagnosis and the prognosis can be. And unfortunately, your typical GP may only see 1 or 2 people in their entire career that are suffering from a brain tumour. So knowledge and understanding of everybody involved in this is so important. So we just encourage people to do that. And again, money like this will help us to get our message out. So, £1,000 helps us to distribute our Better Safe Than Tumours, which is our new programme, to 100 GP surgeries, which gives them the hope that they'll spot some of the signs earlier. That's really why what Holly and the family in Glenn's memory have done is just amazing.
That must make you feel very good, Holly.
Yeah, it really does. And it's nice to hear what those figures can do practically. And ultimately, it's the research into understanding them is how we will combat these type of diseases, I guess. It's a bit like COVID. We need to keep researching them and work out what they're doing, because, Graham will know more, but it seems to me that there are a huge variety of types of brain tumours, and they react to people in different ways. And no one case is the same. There was two people in the room, actually, that I was delighted that was there. And I didn't get to talk about them on the day because I got about 2 minutes to say something, as you did, Graham. And I intended to mention them. There was, we have a family, a very good family friend of my dad's sisters, who's lost their son in his early 30s to a brain tumour. They were there in the room. And a lady also emailed me a few days before the event, sort of less than a week, and it really touched me. And she basically said that her son had been diagnosed with a brain tumour, and within 3 weeks he had died. And he happened to work at the racecourse. And so they'd had a memorial day just previously. His name was Niall Kavanagh. And I sort of vaguely knew the story and not. But she wanted to just kind of send me a message, say good luck, and can we meet up afterwards and see how we've gone and how we did it, and because she would like to do something positive in her son's memory. And just instantly I just said, do you want, you and your other half or a friend, do you want to come? There's 2 seats there, I'd be delighted if you came. And she came along, and it turns out that I have known her via email and her friend for years. She works at NEH Vets, and we've had so many emails over the years, but it was her son, and it was an utter delight to have her there. And she, again, these people all took something away from the day that was positive. So I think that's what we need to do, is put on these events that put a smile on people's faces and make them feel positive about the possibility of finding more out about these tumours and treatments, and hopefully a cure.
Well, thank you very much, Graham, for bringing the charity a bit more profile in what you just said. I doubt that people realise that it's young people that are affected so much by brain tumours.
Yeah, we had this program, as I said, called Head Smart, and it was because the average diagnosis of a child originally was at about 13 weeks. And, if it takes 13 weeks to spot these things, and some of them grow really quite prolifically, doctors, and it'll sound as if I'm being critical, I'm not, but doctors would say, just give them Calpol, or it's a headache, or whatever else. And you kind of understand that if they're not used to seeing these sorts of things, or being aware of the symptoms of them. So it is about awareness. And Holly's also made another really important point, which is, we have a team of people here that are dedicated to support. And it's not just the support to the people that are currently themselves suffering with a brain tumour, it's support to their family and their friends as well. And as Holly's just described, and I met the lady actually at the dinner, she bothered to come across and say hello to me, and I was thrilled that she did that. And sometimes you forget that it's not just the person that's suffering, it's the family and the wider family that are affected. And the trouble with things like brain tumours is they can affect the personality and the person that was there before in much the same way that, some of these other awful head injuries and brain illnesses and diseases can. So it's about all of those things. But yes, I take great heart in, as I said, that there are people like Holly that do these sorts of events to ensure that we can all strive to do ultimately what we'd like to do, which is to find a cure. At least we can make people's life chances better and longer.
Well, hear to that, Graham. Holly, you've mentioned a few thank yous, but I'm sure there's many other people you'd like to thank on this podcast for the Glenn Roeder Raceday.
Oh, there's a huge team of people. We have a couple of boards up in the room actually with and in the race card of a page of thank yous, and it was extensive, and we couldn't have done it without them. And that goes from the people that sponsored different elements of the day. We tried to sponsor out and get in the money for, if we could get a brand on something, we sold it. So down to the raffle envelopes and the napkins and the champagne raffle, our wine bar, our gym bar, all sorts of things, our bags that we gave out with gifts in them. And we had a lady, a small company who is a fabric and wallpaper designer. She gave us 360 of her gift notelets, sort of sort of blank cards in a nice gift set, and she gave us 360 of those. I mean, it's just wild that people would do that. And there were local companies, branding companies that gave us things at good prices. I know that, and very realistic what things cost. And but the team at Corney and Barrow in Newmarket and Noel Byrne of the Bedford Lodge were amazing. And the team at the racecourse, they are phenomenal. They are a really, really great team. Nothing is too much, and they're very straight with you. And they couldn't have been better. I couldn't sing their praises high enough. So there's loads. There's too many. Too many.
If I can jump in, I don't know, Stephen, but there's one thing that actually, and you mentioned Brendan earlier. At one point, Brendan was even auctioning off, if he could raise enough money, we could stop him speaking.
Yeah.
I think we raised the money, but we didn't stop him speaking.
That was a little white lie of his, I think. Yeah. But yeah, loads of things. I mean, we had friends going around. I did the table centres because I am a florist in a previous life, and a friend went round and sold them all off. And we had footballs as table numbers, and they were all branded and sold off. And just, you know, anything that wasn't, you know, secured down was gone. So loads to thank.
And on a personal level, Holly, it must have been, Graham mentioned it earlier, I think, an emotional day for you. You must have shed the odd tear as well, because as you said before on episode 140, your dad wasn't able to have the send-off, you know, at a funeral that during the COVID period. And Saturday, the 23rd of July, gave you and the family that chance.
It really did, and that was kind of where the idea was born from. Yeah, we were allowed 30 at the funeral, which there would have been a far bigger number than that in normal times, and we couldn't sing. We basically, you know, there was nothing afterwards where people stand around and, you know, have a bite to eat and a drink and tell good stories, but we didn't get to do any of that, and that seemed really, really sad. So this was our chance to kind of do that, rather than being sad and doing a memorial service, you know, in a church, which would be lovely, but that wasn't for us. And we wanted to do something more positive. And kind of, for me personally, this whole experience doing things like this podcast, you know, being asked questions about Dad has been just so lovely to be able to talk about him and do something positive. And Saturday was just that. And we got to hear different stories, different relationships that Dad had with people, and it honestly, he would have been the first there, and he would have been the one having the best time. You know, glass of champagne when you go in, perfect, good food, bit of a laugh with your friends and family, and racing. And the sun shone. I actually prayed to him in the morning. It was pretty overcast, and I was thinking, oh, it's so much nicer with a little bit of sun. And I kind of said, Dad, come on, please. And it was sunny all afternoon. It was perfect. So the whole experience was a good one from a family point of view, I have to say. And
we even got the Glenn Roeder handicap as well. So what was it like hearing his name when the race named after him?
Yeah, it was, that he would have, I don't know, would he have loved that? He was very quiet. I think he would have liked it, and he would have just been, you know, more interested in, you know, looking at the horses physically and the jockeys and which trainers. And it was a real shame, actually, that, well, shames take nothing away from the winner, but Clive Cox came second with Wowzers, and Clive was a big sponsor of ours on the day because he has family connections to his father-in-law died of a brain tumour, and a cousin has one currently, so he jumped in straight away and sponsored a race also. But yeah, he had a runner in the race, and he told me beforehand I quite fancy it, and it's a shame that didn't come in. But
well, I looked through the winning jockeys, and it was a really international flavour. We had an Englishman, an Italian, a Scotsman, a Frenchman, an Irishman.
Dad would have approved of that, I think, you know, and they were young, and that was what Mike Vince on the microphone on the day said. I think Glenn would have really approved who won his race. It was a young lad, and Dad very, very much championed young players. That would be his kind of stamp on the game, I think. He really enjoyed coaching younger players and sort of mentoring them. I think he would have really approved of that winner. So.
Well, Rab Havlin, who's been on this podcast 2 or 3 times, he'll be very pleased to hear you think he might still be young. So,
ours. A claimer won ours, I think. Who won ours?
I was Pierre. It was a French.
Yeah.
Marco Gianni won as well the second race, and
all very good names for the future.
Well, thank you, Graham, for joining us on the Paddock and the Pavilion for this very special podcast about the Glenn Roeder Raceday.
You're welcome.
Your contribution. And thanks again, Holly, for coming back on the show. I thought we'd end with something that would have pleased your dad yesterday if you'd have been about to watch the Lionesses win the Euro Championship final, beating the Germans 2-1 during extra time?
Absolutely amazing. I mean, he would have been absolutely thrilled. I have to admit, and I said this to someone yesterday, going back sort of 10, 15 years even, a short time, women's football wasn't really a thing. It was just starting to come about. And, being a professional footballer, being around, men in his whole professional career, he would have said, women playing football, ridiculous. But in the last 10 years, he really got to enjoy watching the women's football. He really appreciated actually how talented they were and how much the sport has progressed. He would have been absolutely thrilled, and he really would have appreciated the effort and how amazing that was. What an achievement. Really brilliant. Great feeling for the country.
But just returning actually to you, Graham, you mentioned something earlier which we should remember. I think you said PEG. If you just remind us all what those three things stood for.
Yeah, I can. And just before I do that, I'll also say that I chanted your dad's name from the terraces at Carrow Road, given that I was brought up in Norwich. So I never chanted his name when he played against us, because he never played for Norwich, but I did chant his name when he was in the dugout. PEG, positivity, energy and generosity.
There you go.
And I think we need a bit more of that. Thank you very much, Graham and Holly, for joining me on the Paddock and the Pavilion.
Very welcome.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Paddock and the Pavilion. You can download the show on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, SoundCloud, Stitcher and Spotify.
Follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram at The Pad and Pav. Don't forget, if you like the show, please do leave us a rating and review.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Ah, the sizzle of McDonald's sausage. It's enough to make you crave your favorite breakfasts. Enough to head over to McDonald's. Enough to make you really wish this commercial were scratch and sniff.
And if you're a sausage person, now get 2 satisfyingly savory sausage McGriddles, sausage biscuits, or sausage burritos for just $3.33. Or mix and match. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer or combo meal. Single item at regular price.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.